All right, you're still watching This Morning on ITV, reaching you live from Benin City, Nigeria. My name is Ugochukwu Bamidele. It's time for us to, turn our attention to our discussions this morning. We're looking at the state of the nation, by the way, and then we're going to be touching on a whole lot of issues. First of all, last week, the president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was in Nigeria for a special National Economic Summit, and, talked about a whole lot of things, but particularly had an issue with, the implementation of Nigeria's economic recovery policy. All right. He says on paper, documentation, perfect, outline, focuses on people development, human development. But in implementation, it's a totally different ball game. And, that raised a whole lot of eyebrows. That raised a whole lot of concerns. Not concerns that we're not aware of, by the way. Concerns that a whole lot of persons have raised over the past years. And maybe the issue is the fact that this time, someone that's donated so much in charity to Nigeria and so many other African countries has not been the person talking about it. So, it's a big issue at this point. We're going to be looking at that this morning on the program. Apart from that, we're also going to be looking at, President Muhammadu Buhari's stance on tenure elongation of elected APC, the national chairman of the party, actually, and other elected members of the National Working Committee. We're going to be discussing that this morning. He has an issue with the fact that, the party seems to be doing some things that would put the party or make the party play into the hands of the opposition as we step towards 2019. That's another issue we're going to be looking at. Another interesting stuff we're going to be looking at is Kemi Adeosun's stance on recovered loot. All right. She says what she has on paper is totally different from what the EFCC is declaring, and she has an issue with that. We're also going to be discussing that this morning, plus a whole lot more. Joining me this morning to do justice to all of this, I've got a lecturer, public affairs analyst also. I'm talking about Mr. Neville Abakedu. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. Good morning, viewers at home.
All right, and I've got a public affairs commentator also, Mr. Wilfred, rather. Idemudia, yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through this morning. Okay, so let's start off straight. Let's start off with the Bill Gates stance. Let's look at the things he raised. Particularly, his attention was on the fact that Nigeria's economic recovery and growth plan, like I said, perfect on paper, but come to implementation, doesn't really, focus on human capital development, which he says is the driving force. We all know that's a driving force for any economy. So let's start off from there, looking at that particular issue he raised. Let me start with you, Neville.
Okay. Thank you very much. As we know, that Bill Gates did not come to Nigeria on his own volition.
He was invited.
He was invited by the government of Nigeria as one of those that control world economy. And the special summit they called him for had the theme human capital investment on supporting pro-poor and economic growth agenda.
Okay.
So the issues that he raised during that summit were issues that were raised within the context of the subject matter for discussion. And so, even though we have heard a lot of things about people saying Bill Gates was wrong, that he misfired and the rest of them, but let's see what Bill Gates was saying within the context of the theme of that program. Bill Gates was saying that Nigeria as a country, we have enormous potentialities to become a great nation, but that there is a disconnect between these potentialities and the reality on ground within the context of the economic growth plan of the government.
Okay.
That disconnect, according to him, is a fundamental disjuncture that is making plans by government not to be a reality on ground, because the people, the civil society people, that is the masses of the people that were supposed to have been the center of the program, they are far removed from the program. in that context, the human capital development aspect of the economic growth program is hanging in the sky like a balloon.
Okay.
And so he was not trying to let the government know that you have the potentiality to become a great nation, you have a very good economic growth plan, but if you do not invest in human capital development, that your well thought out plan may be a mirage at the end of the day. I will refer to some of the things that I said here. Bill Gates said that Nigeria is one of the most dangerous places in the world to give birth.
I mean, he's not the first person that has raised that.
Yes, I mean, it's based on the statistics that are available to him.
Okay.
That Nigeria is coming forth after countries like Sierra Leone, like Central African Republic, and like Chad. These are countries that are not too far away from here. And Nigeria prides itself as the giant of Africa. And now it's on the same level with Lilliputian states in Africa. Chad, landlocked country. Central African Republic, landlocked country. Sierra Leone, that is not to 3 states in Nigeria. So you see the level to which Nigeria has degenerated in terms of development plan as a result of leadership, because Bill Gates emphasized that issue of leadership, that Nigeria cannot get it right if the leaders do not want Nigeria to get it right.
Okay, all right. You're going to throw more light on all of this point, but let me quickly come to you. Looking at all of these issues, and then looking at the current government, the APC government, part of the issues they raised during their campaign focused on human capital development at the time, and then at this point, Bill Gates raising these issues right now. Do we actually have to wait for a Bill Gates to raise all of these issues, seeing that this was, what they promised they were going to do, human capital development, pay more attention to welfare and all of that?
I say no to that. You see, actually, the APC promised to develop the people, develop Nigeria, but it's unfortunate that what we are seeing is a far cry from what they promised to do.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I think it was Julius Nyerere of Tanzania that said, any true development begins with a man.
Okay.
If you are able to develop the man, conscientize him, the man will be able to fix his environment. He'll be able to provide a lot of things for himself. Here in Nigeria, we are talking about fixing roads, building railways and all that. Who are able to manage this infrastructure? That is a question we need to ask. Bill Gates did not slight Nigeria. He always spoke the truth. And if you listen to him, he said a number of things. We are backward in so many areas. Quality of life is low in Nigeria. People are hungry. He said there is a chronic hunger. Malnutrition of the children also is very, very high. So until we change things, we'll continue to live with this situation. And he gave answers to the question, the issues that he raised. That if the federal government will invest on human capital, the Nigerians are not thriving, then the nation will thrive. Look at what is happening. There's hunger in our land. There's no doubt about this.
Okay.
So the federal government needs to listen to Bill Gates, not just Bill Gates, Nigerians.
I mean, but what I'm asking is, did we have to wait for a Bill Gates?
No, not at all.
Look at this administration. For once, we have a government that has ministers that are well schooled.
Yeah.
I mean, virtually in every ministry, apart from, where we have people that are learned in some other area, operating in some other areas. But this is one cabinet that you can look at and say, okay, for once, Nigeria has, one of the best when it comes to education, occupying offices. And still we have to wait for, someone from outside come tell us the reality that stares us in the face.
It is quite unfortunate. We didn't need the Bill Gates or any other person to tell us what we are supposed to do in Nigeria. It is incumbent upon those who occupy leadership position to do these things so that Nigerians will be happy, to provide, because there should be a balance between the capital development and infrastructural development. That's what Bill Gates is saying. He has said federal government should invest in agriculture, education, and the health of the people. For instance, let's say in Benin City here, government has spent a lot of money in fixing roads and all that. But our people still use these drains as dump sites. What has happened? Because the people have not been developed. They have not been conscientized to that level to operate at a critical level. So the federal government needs to do a lot of things to be able to raise the human capital in Nigeria, because poverty, illiteracy is high. And these are the areas the man spoke about.
Okay, just before I come to you, Mr. Neville, let me just, you mentioned something, Mr. Wilfred. You said, you know, we have roads, all right, government builds roads, and there are drainages, and people still dump things.
Yes.
You say that's as a result of lack of conscientization.
Yes.
You know, the people are not brought up to speed with modern day reality. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But you have these same people travel abroad, travel to other countries where, you know, things are working, and they don't dump stuff in the drainages. They don't even toss as little as a paper bag on the street.
This is as a result that the system there checks the people. Okay? Whatever they do there, the system checks them. Here we do a lot of things with impunity. Nothing will happen.
Okay. So is it, I'm asking because is this supposed to be more about making the system work, and then the people get developed from the system working, or developing the people and then the people develop the system?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Okay. If you develop the people will automatically develop. It will reflect in the lives of the people. It will reflect in the character of the nation, whatsoever thing they do. But it is unfortunate that some of the people we look onto who are highly pleased, they do what is not expected of them. Okay? So it is my advice to the present government at all levels, from federal to local government level, that they do what is right so as to be able to develop the human capital so that Nigerians can say no to poverty to some extent, because I agree that there's no way in the world where you don't have poor people. But that of Nigeria is outrageous. You need to go to the street, see our people, they are hungry. There's no doubt about it. The children are hungry. When he said Nigeria is the most dangerous place to give birth or to raise children, it's a known fact. It is not an overstatement.
Okay. All right, quickly, Mr. Neville, let's go back to some of the issues you were mentioning. Look at the National Economic Growth and Recovery Plan, 2017 to 2020. It was launched last year. Going through that document, you notice how it's a very beautiful document. Do you understand? But let's look at implementation in the last 1 year, between 2017 and now. Let's look at the implementation of that document. So far, in line with the issues Bill Gates have raised, do you think, you know, there's light at any point for us with that document?
First and foremost, when government make policies, there's always a period that the policy is exhibited. I try to ensure that the policy is executed in line with the target audience.
Okay.
And then there's always feedback and adjustment as the case may be. But part of the cardinal aspect of the economic growth recovery plan that Bill Gates talk about is the issue of health. The health sector, for example, we see that Nigerians that are well-to-do, either in the public or private sector, they still travel abroad for treatment, what they call health tourism. They travel to either Cuba, India, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other places, even UK, because of poor health facilities in our country.
Okay.
That, when mirrored against the economic growth plan, we can say that the government has not, federal program has not achieved its aim as expected. We also see that people that have been trained in the health sector in Nigeria, either as nurses, doctors, and other paramedical experts, they usually find that if you go to embassies of developed countries or countries that have some forms of political and economic stability, you see those who apply for visa to travel outside the country, they are more from the health sector. That raises a fundamental question about the applicability and the success of this aspect of the economic growth plan.
Okay.
Then we look at the educational sector within the context of the economic growth plan. We discover that recently, as recent as last year through this year, members of various unions of universities in Nigeria are back on industrial action. Why? Because they enter into agreement with government, and the government has refused to live by its bidding concerning the agreement. Many persons who are highly placed, they either send their children to private schools in Nigeria, or they send their children to schools in Ghana and other parts of the world. Again, that is a mark that is not a pass mark for the economic growth plan. But before we can really assess the economic growth plan and recovery and growth plan of the government, we need to look at the first 3 years of the program, or the first 4 years of the program. Then we do an assessment and the comparison of what happened in the past before the program came into existence and what has happened after the program has come into existence. Then we also see that the government said they are going to embark on massive infrastructural development and transformation of the entire country. And every time Federal Executive Council meeting ends, you see some ministers, whether it's Minister for Information and other ministers, either transport, other aviation, and the rest of them, they appear on television to be saying that so contracts have been awarded. Lagos, Ikorodu, Shagamu Road, Porting School, Futua Road, as the case may be, all kinds of roads that have been approved by government. All of this have to do with infrastructural development, tying of roads, and the rest of them. But the question that began raised within the context of the economic recovery and growth plan is that when these roads are tied, when the roads are being tied, people will walk, they will get some money. But what about the maintenance of the road and the sustainability of the roads? And then what will be the benefit of the people? I talked about the health sector just now. If you build beautiful hospitals and you bring equipment from abroad, whereas the medical experts you have trained in your country, they are going outside, how do you maintain and sustain that sector? Then if you build ports, you bring people from China, from America to come and build ports. Maybe you are tied to a concession agreement for 5 years. After the 5 years and these people are going back to their country, what happened to the facilities?
Okay, but let's also look at the policy that the federal government put on ground recently that says, work permits cannot be granted to foreigners, especially in fields where Nigerians have, knowledge. Nigerians can operate. Let's also look at that. That's a policy right now.
Whether it's a policy by executive fiat or presidential fiat is what I don't know. Where you say a policy is a well thought out program of government which has consequences in case people go against that policy. You know that in one of our programs here, I've said that those that control the government, they are different from those that are in the government. That is the present APC government. I had cause to say here that...
You think those that control the government are different from those in the government?
Yes. I will give an example. I was watching the most richest man in Africa and in Nigeria when he went to Lagos to say that they want Kano State and the Lagos State to have a kind of a business relationship that will outlive any political party in power. I was watching when he was saying that whether it is PDP that is in power, that is APC that is in power, they want this economic relationship between Kano and the Lagos State to continue.
Okay.
Now, the man that controls the economy of Nigeria, in terms of the large part of the economy of Nigeria, I'm referring to Dangote now. He is not a government. He is not a member of the government. He is not APC, he is not PDP, in quote by him. So, if a policy is made, and then this man has relationship with some experts from outside the country, in areas where Nigeria also have expertise. And this is somebody that when he sneezes, the president of Nigeria will be catching cold. Are you going to implement that policy and stop Dangote from bringing experts to Nigeria to pursue his business? There's no law that is punishing anybody who's bringing some people to Nigeria. Okay. So that law, the applicability is going to be a very debatable one. So it is good for government to come up with law and let the government be strong enough, let the state be strong enough with a will to execute the law. But this very one that we are referring to now, I'm not sure is going to see the light of day within this period of this administration.
Okay. All right. So let's just quickly move on to something else right now. Let's look at the issues the Minister of Finance is raising with the figures that's been put out by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission as regards to recovered looted funds. Now, she says her ministry has or can account by the books for 91 billion. And the EFCC is saying about 500 is what they've been able to recover. And this is the Ministry of Finance, government, the EFCC, government. Is there a problem with regards to, working together, especially when there's supposed to be a synergy between the both of them? The Ministry of Finance is in charge of monies when it comes to Nigeria. The EFCC, economic and financial fraud, and recently with this government's drive to end impunity and fight corruption, a whole lot of monies have been recovered. I mean, at some point it was a daily thing on the news, and then we're hearing 91 billion. I mean, even if you juxtapose that with what we hear every day on the papers, on social media, on the news, it definitely doesn't match. The EFCC is saying 500. So let's also look at this issue. Let me start from you, Mr. Wilfred.
It's a funny thing that EFCC is coming with a figure, and the Ministry of Finance has another figure. It shows that there's no synergy. I suppose the EFCC is supposed to, or it's a part of the Ministry of Finance. Okay? Now, this goes on to buttress what a lot of people are saying. Oh, we've gone to so-so home, we recover so-so billions of naira or dollars. Some have come out, some families have come out that it is not true that such monies will ever recover from their homes. So if EFCC is claiming that they had recovered so much money, then they should declare it. And it will be funny if EFCC itself is now being investigated by another body. A body that was set up to check corruption, to bring people to book. You have recovered a huge amount of money. And what you had, the figure you have, is different from that of the minister. It's funny. I don't think such a thing happens in any developed world. Yes, we roll. So I want to call on the president to step in and actually call both parties together so as to be able to harmonize. Let us know who is telling the truth. Let us know who is telling the lie, who is telling lies there. Is it the EFCC or the Ministry of Finance? So Nigerians want to know, because it surprises me. We are recovering a lot of money, and yet we go borrowing from other countries or organizations. Can we not spend this money recovered in revamping the economy? There are a lot of crises. Just now, the health workers, they are threatening they will go on strike. The members of the university, the non-academic, they've just returned back from strike. So there's a lot of problem in Nigeria. So let the federal government deploy the money already recovered in revamping the economy.
Okay. All right. Let me quickly come to you, Neville. Just, for the records. Now, a letter was put out last month by the head of the EFCC, Mr. Magu. And, the minister asked him to explain why the figures computed by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, which is a department under the Ministry of Finance, doesn't tally with Mr. Magu's claim of 500. Now, if you remember very well, there's been issues with Magu being in charge of the EFCC. The Senate has raised issues when, confirmation came up. And then all of this right now. Where do you think the problem is coming from? Let me start from there. Who is supposed to be able to give us a proper account of, recovered monies?
Let me start by saying that in government is a system that consists of 3 major organs and then some other subsidiaries of government or agencies of government or establishments of government or institutions of government. By this definition of government as a system, you discover that government is having one organ they call the executive, another organ they call the legislature, another organ they call the judiciary. These organs are supposed to work together. Let me use the word of my co-discussant, to synergize.
Okay.
But in political science, when we are talking about relationship between these organs of government, we talk about intergovernmental relation. That is, governmental organizations relating together, whether as executive or as legislature or as judiciary. There must be a means of communication and relationship between them for the government to attain equilibrium and for the government to maintain stability.
Okay.
In the same vein, within the executive arm, the branches that form the executive arm, in this context now we are talking of EFCC and the Ministry for Finance. They are supposed to work together to relate for the purpose of transparency and accountability. You go to the judiciary, the same thing. You go to the legislature, they are also supposed to relate. So intergovernmental relation at a macro level and macro level. Now, it baffles me when I hear that a letter has been written asking Mr. A to account for this or asking Mr. B to account for this. The law is very clear on the role and functions of EFCC. The law is also clear about a person that is making an allegation or is making a statement of fact. You prove it. If EFCC acting chairman Ibrahim Magu is saying that the organization has been able to recover 500 billion naira. It is an allegation. Let me say it that way. He should prove it. Where is the money? Whether the money that is referring to that is body's agency recover for government, whether there's a strong room in EFCC where the money is kept, whether the money was taken to the vault of a central bank, whether the money is with somebody or somewhere.
Okay. He
should say, not just say the money is 500 billion that we have recovered. Where is the money? You are the one that recovered the money. Where did you keep the money? Then the minister saying it's 91 billion naira that will be recovered. How did she come about 91 billion? Is it that when the money was recovered, the money was given to her, transferred to her? This is the money that we have recovered from EFCC. If you want to transfer that kind of money from EFCC to the minister, there must be a document. We expect the minister to bring such a document and begin to flag the document before the order. Look at the document evidencing the transfer of 91 billion from EFCC to the minister or to the office of the Minister for Finance concerning loot recovery. I have the belief that both of them have something to hide. Sure. That is the reason why they want to trade accusation. Okay. Just like NAPC is the Revenue and Mobilization Commission held a meeting with Secretary General, the commissioners across the country, as recently as 3 days ago, and the meeting was inconclusive because they said NAPC declared a particular amount of money that was generated, and the money is short of 37.7 billion. Okay. And the Secretary General is saying that NAPC did not disclose the correct and exact revenue that was generated. That's another form of fraud. So the two of them, the two personalities now in this matter of recovered loot, because the minister has said something about recovered loot. That is Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, has said something about recovered loot. Minister for Finance says something about recovered loot. The president is saying something about recovered loot. By my own little knowledge of law, all those persons who are saying things about the recovered loot without any document to show that the money recovered by EFCC has been added over to the president with the document what they are saying is ESA, evidence in law. It is only the chairman of EFCC that can give the exact amount of money to Nigerians.
So he comes out to say 500 billion.
Yeah. So if he says 500 billion, he should prove it with evidence. Okay. If the minister is saying we have 91 billion, he should also prove it with evidence that this is the money that we have received from EFCC as looted for recovery. The balance of 409 billion is still with EFCC. The minister should say it. Okay. The EFCC will not come outside and say it is true that we gave them 91 billion. The balance of 409 billion is with us. We want to give it to the minister now. And there must be a document to that effect.
All right. Just quickly, let me come to you, Mr. Wilfred. Now, since the whistleblower policy came on board, there's been, this touting of unprecedented success by the EFCC, all right, which definitely a whole lot of persons have applauded in different quarters. But let's also go back a little bit. 2017, particularly in November, the chairman of the EFCC actually came out to say that the EFCC had recovered about 739 billion naira within 2 years. That's between 2015 and 2017. And then he comes out again to say that 500 billion. All right? Now, these are two different figures coming from the office of the EFCC alone. Let's also look at the part of the Minister of Finance. She says 91 billion naira is what she can account for. My question right now, should the EFCC be keeping monies recovered? Or should they recover and hand over to the Ministry of Finance after all of the judicial processes have been concluded and the money forfeited to the federal government? Because every time we hear so amount of money, the court has said so amount of money, so property be forfeited to the federal government. When it's forfeited, should it still be with the EFCC? Because I think if it's handed over to the Ministry of Finance, then all of this, back and forth with regards to exactly how much has been recovered, which Nigerians have been asking to know, between 2015 and now, a whole lot of people have been saying, we want to know how much has been recovered. Are we not supposed to have a proper documentation, database for all of this?
Yes, I may not be too sure of what the provision of the FCC says. Okay. But common sense shows that EFCC itself is not an end in itself. You are supposed to recover, then you remit. Okay. And well documented. Like my colleague here said, if you have recovered 1 error, that 1 error should be properly documented. Okay? From Mr. A or Mr. B, or from organization A or B. Then you should report to the ministry. That is the Ministry of Finance. Oh, this is the amount that I have recovered. Okay, here it is. Either it is law with the central bank or with commercial bank, whichever way they want to do it. The figure that have been coming out since the inception of this administration is mind-boggling. If you put all together, it's far above what the EFCC man is saying, the 500 billion or so. So they owe Nigerians a lot of explanation as to what is happening at that level. And people are beginning to lose confidence in the EFCC and the figures that come out each day. Recently, they say, okay, they went to this man's house, they recovered so amount of money. But the one came out to say, no, it is a lie. They never recover such money. If it is on political ground, they come out to say they have recovered so money, let them prove. Let them bring out the money. So I think that it is not the duty of EFCC. They are not a bank. If you recover, then you remit to the Ministry of Finance. They should be the one that should be custody of that money. That's what I think.
Okay, but what about the issue of proper documentation and database? That's something that people have talked about in Nigeria. Inability to have a proper database for staff. It's just not about the EFCC alone. Okay. Virtually everywhere, you're asking for figures, even in the civil service. You're asking for exact figures, and you're hearing, we can't find this. We don't know where it is. We think it should be this.
You see, it is not that they don't have the knowledge to keep these documents or to document this. It's deliberate.
Is it a Nigerian thing?
Yes, it's a Nigerian factor. Okay? There are people employed or put in place to do the documentation and all that. Okay, let's look at the EFCC. Are you saying they don't have the personnel to do this? So it is deliberate. If you have something to hide, if you want to swindle the government or you want to do something that is out of place, you may not want to do proper documentation because you wouldn't want to produce a document that will put you into prison. So it's deliberate. I don't see any reason why there should not be any document, even in all federal government parasector establishment, even at the local government level. We are in a computer age where everything you do should be documented.
Okay. All right. Talking about being in the computer age reminds me of, some, would I say months back when someone came out with very huge amount of money for setting up a website. It's interesting. Let's move on to something else right now. Let's move on to the issue of
excuse me,
the reordering of election timetable. That's, been a big issue for some weeks now on the floor of the National Assembly. Now, if we remember very well, the Senate decided to reorder the scheduling of election sequence in Nigeria and, sent it to the president for accent. He declined. The National Assembly has said, okay, we might override your veto because we think this is the right thing to do. Now, just for the records, on Tuesday, that's about 2 days ago, a new bill, next week Tuesday rather, a new bill will be presented on the floor of the Senate. And according to what we hear, it's been listed on its order paper for first reading. A bill to make fresh amendments to the Electoral Act. All right? Now, all of this drama with the rescheduling of the Electoral Act is getting much more interesting and much more messier. We hear recently that monies are being proposed, or it's going around on the floor of the National Assembly, as much as $50,000, to sway senators to be on the side of the presidency with regards to the amendments of the Electoral Act. That's for senators. On the floor of the House of Reps, we're hearing as much as $30,000. All of this drama at the time when this country is fighting corruption. Even if there's not been evidence to prove, but the Senate has set up a committee to look into that. But let's quickly look at that issue also. Let me start with you, Mr. Neville.
The issue of election sequencing, I don't think it's supposed to be an issue the way it is generating heat now.
Okay.
Concerning 2019 general elections. Why did I say so? Since the emergence of this Fourth Republic, Nigeria conducted the general election in 1999.
Okay.
The election was sequenced. Nigeria conducted election in 2003, general election. The election was also sequenced. Nigeria conducted another election in 2007, 2011, 2015. These elections were sequenced. There was no problem about the sequencing. For the records, maybe I should summarize the sequencing of these elections.
All right.
In 1999, our old brother of blessed memory, retired Justice Ephraim Akpata, was the chairman, pioneer chairman of INEC in this Fourth Republic.
Okay.
The way INEC under his leadership sequenced the election was that on February 20, 1999, National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly election was conducted.
Okay.
That is, legislative election was conducted on that day. Then the executive election, governorship and presidential election were conducted on the 27th of
That's about
February.
seven days after, yeah.
Yes, in the same 1999. When he died, the next election that came up was 2003 election. Our own ambassador, Abel Gwabadia, of blessed memory as well, became the chairman of INEC, and he conducted 2003 general election. The same way the election of 1999 was sequenced. That was the way the election was sequenced. National Assembly and State Legislature election, April 12th. Governorship and presidential election, which is executive election, April 19th. Then after that came 2007, when Morisiwu was chairman of INEC. It was only state elections that were conducted first, then national elections were conducted second.
Okay.
State legislature and governorship election on April 14. National Assembly and presidential election, which is federal election, on April 21.
Okay.
2011, the revert back order Jega, legislature election was conducted first, National Assembly and State House of Assembly election, April 9. Then governorship and presidential, April 16, 2011. The same Jega in 2015 decided to reverse that sequence. In 2015, National Assembly and presidential election took place on February 14, while state legislature and National Assembly election took place on February 28. Now, INEC went further to say that for 2019, they are going to, under Mahmoud Yakubuna, they are going to conduct election in this sequence. National Assembly and presidential election, February 15, 2019. Then State Assembly, Governorship and Federal Capital Council polls, March 2, 2019.
Okay.
But the members of the National Assembly, they are now saying no to this sequencing. And they are carrying out an amendment to say that the sequencing of the election that should not be built into the Electoral Act should take this format. One, the first election should not be National Assembly election alone on one day.
Okay.
The next election should be governorship and state houses of assembly election alone on another date. And lastly, presidential election on another date. That's like Nigeria should be using about a whole month to conduct an election. At whose expense? When in Kenya, they did state house of assembly election, governorship election, national assembly election, presidential election, all in one day. What stopped the National Assembly from amending the law to say that the election in Nigeria, general election in Nigeria, shall take this format? All elections shall be conducted in one day. One of the reasons why some of us, well, you can call it maybe value judgment in our assessment, that we are saying that the purpose for which this amendment is to be carried out, especially as it regards 2019, is because there is somebody that this act is targeting. Otherwise, they should have said, okay, we are going to amend this law now, but the law will not affect this election of next year.
Yes.
Let the law affect the next general election. If I were to be president, I will not accede to the bill as they propose it, because I know that if the election is conducted, many of these people that are in the National Assembly now, they will like to come back. They will now win. Then they will now use their influence and power because of National Assembly members elect. They will now influence governorship election and state legislature election. Then the whole Nigeria is now aware that Party A is now the one that is controlling National Assembly and the state across the country. Then the voting for the presidency will now follow the outcome of the National Assembly and the state legislature election that have taken place 2 weeks earlier. And then you want the city president to legislate himself out of office by appending his signature? The answer is no. Okay. If I were to be the president, after looking at this their proposal, I will not assent.
Which is what he did.
Yes, let them veto me, and then we cannot go to court and ask the court to set aside this act, okay, which will now lead to a further amendment of the act after the Supreme Court has made pronouncement.
Okay. All right. Let me come to you, Mr. Wilfred. Now, we also hear that, apart from the lobbying taking place on the floor of the National Assembly, both for those pro-presidency as regards, vetoing this bill and, pro-National Assembly, we hear money's been going around. That's on one side. We're also hearing that, some governors, especially most of those seeking second term, have also endorsed this rescheduling of election sequence. My question is, why so much, drama about rescheduling of sequence? The thing is, if you've done a good job, would you be scared about how the sequence of the election would go?
Okay. As a matter of fact, this is election sequence diversionary. Okay. The people should focus on the economy. They are self-seeking leaders. Okay. if you are, I quite agree. I give it to the National Assembly. They have the right to make laws. Yeah. They have the right to amend and other. But when you make laws that you are going to benefit from almost immediately, that one calls to question. Okay? Now, they are for themselves. They are not for Nigerians.
You think so?
Yes.
But they've also said that their reason for doing this is in the interest of Nigeria.
It is
so
not.
Only the best can emerge.
I disagree. You know, in Nigeria, there's this bandwagon effect, just like my colleague here said. Okay. After they have won their own election, they cannot gang up against the president also. So if I were...
So you think that's the
underlying motive? It is very, very clear. It is crystal clear what they are doing.
Okay, so what about the governors lending credence to this right now? How do they stand to gain?
It's still the same thing, because the governors, whether the president comes back or he doesn't come back, it's not their business. They are for themselves. Okay, they want to come back as governors.
You think it's more of selfish?
It's self. Both at the National Assembly also is to protect their own selfish interest. There's nothing about it. Okay, if you are making any amendment, have you consulted with the people that voted you in there? You just sit there in Abuja, you begin to amend and re-amend. Is that what they were sent to Abuja to do? How many of them came down to their constituents to come and find out about their mind as far as the amendment of this election sequence is concerned?
You think there should have been a town hall across the country with regards to this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap up. You have any issue with the? My question is why the whole drama around the sequencing? When, if you've done a good job, you can be sure of the fact that you'll get people's votes. Why is everybody bothered about the sequence of the election?
Well, the reason why everybody, when you say everybody, the political actors who are interested in elected positions.
Everybody's talking about it. Both
everybody is talking because it's a national issue.
Yeah, that's
it's an issue for debate. It's an issue for debate.
Yes.
Okay. But the people that generated this issue for debate are the dramatists, the people that
the main actors.
Yes, they are the people.
All right.
Let me say that number one, the National Assembly is pursuing its own agenda.
You also think so?
Yes, I think so. And that is why I said if they believe that genuinely they want to amend the electoral act in the area of sequencing elections, it should be with a caveat that this law will take effect from the next general election, not the one of 2019. Okay. If they know that they actually have the interest of the masses at heart. That's on one part. The National Assembly too should know that Nigeria today is the Thomas Hobbes state of nature, where life is narrow, is short, is solitary, and brutish. People are being hacked to death in their farms while they are doing their legitimate businesses by suspected Fulani herdsmen across the country. There are some other persons in places like Zamfara State. We don't know whether they are herdsmen, we don't know whether they are Boko Haram. They will just go and lay ambush for people and kill them across the country. We expect, for example, the National Assembly to be alive to its responsibility. The other day, the president came up and said that he asked the Inspector General of Police to go to Benue when they were killing people there. He went to Nasarawa, and the man is still Inspector General of Police as we are talking now. The one that pains me is that as a man that has been appointed as Inspector General of Police, you should be giving a report to the president, not the president telling you to go and perform your duties. If you hear that they are killing people in a place and you have a divisional police officer there, area commander there, commissioner of police there, and they are not telling you of what is happening, they are not in charge of the situation, you should mobilize. The way police and soldiers used to mobilize themselves on election day across the country. You will hear of anything crime, because everywhere you go to, even remotest of the villages, you will see soldiers armed to the teeth. You will see police and the civil defense armed to the teeth. And then people are being killed in states that are known, in local government that are known, even in my own local government here, I do not here. Then the police will not be allowed to respond. And the National Assembly will just say, let's observe 1 minute silence for those that have lost their lives. And then they will not come out and say, Mr. President, do something. Whether you are Fulani or not, whether you are from the north or not, people that are perpetrating this act, they are committing offenses against the Nigerian state, They should be brought to book. Look for them and bring them to book.
Okay.
Like they said, they should give them 1 month to bring out the Dapchi girls that were allegedly kidnapped. And then before we knew what was happening, they said the kidnappers on their own, that the Boko Haram is on their own, they returned those
after some backdoor negotiation.
Yes, they returned them. I don't understand, but that's not issue for debate.
That's not what we're looking at right now.
But the National Assembly should be able to ask questions about national security from the president and help the president to ensure that Nigerians, wherever they are secured. They are failing that responsibility. Nigerians are hungry, and we are aware. They have also failed to talk about how to address the problem of hunger. They are talking about election sequence, and they are using it to hit up the system. They want to veto the president. They cannot veto the president on the issue of security, on the issue of food supply and availability to the masses of our people. They are talking of vetoing the president concerning election sequence because they are targeting the president.
Okay.
Let's watch out and see what will be the outcome of the whole issue.
All right, quickly, let's wrap up this segment looking at another interesting drama that played out this week. Now, if you remember very well, sometime in February, there was a National Executive Council meeting of the All Progressives Congress where, members of the National Working Committee of the party got tenure elongation, all right, which included the national chairman and other elected leaders across the states. Now, just some days ago, the president was also at another National Executive Council meeting of the party in Abuja, and turned around to say that the tenure elongation was illegal. All right. So quickly, let me share your thoughts on this first of all, because if you remember very well, the first one, the president was there, the vice president was there, the national chairman of the party was there. All right, when the tenure elongation was done. And then now the president is backtracking on that and saying it's illegal. He thinks the party is playing into the hands of the opposition. Let me start with you, Mr. Wilfred.
Yes, what happened is laughable, as a matter of fact. The president was in attendance, and he didn't object to it.
Okay. And
only for him to come back to say, oh, it is illegal. I want to look at it as a policy somersault as far as that decision is concerned. Okay. But however, even if you have made an error for years and you come to correct it or you make a U-turn, there's nothing wrong in it. So I salute the president for that U-turn. Okay. Because according to him, he cited many areas in APC constitution,
the APC constitution
and the constitution of Nigeria. Yeah. For any person wanting to perpetrate himself or herself in office, go for a second tenure.
But didn't they know about this before elongating the tenure?
Is that it's only the president that can answer that.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is this: he may have come to that realization that that decision portends danger for the APC. Okay. For instance, if the elongation is illegal, it then means that whatever they do, the Chief Oyegun-led Executive Council, whatever they do becomes illegal. Right. Their nomination, primaries, and all that. Okay. Also, you know what that means? So the loss of APC will be the gain of the opposition. Okay. So I'm very sure that was why the president, within this short period, made a U-turn. Okay. And it's good for democracy.
All right, quickly, Mr. Neville, as we wrap up, like I said, in just about 2 minutes, do you think, this turnaround is a fallout of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led reconciliation team?
Well, parties across the world, political parties across the world, they have issues, internal party issues, that is intra-party issues that they resolve from time to time. So APC as a political party is not an exception. But I beg to disagree with my co-discussor when he says some sort of the president making a U-turn. You know that that meeting of February 27th...
It's a policy somersault.
Policy somersault. Yes, so it's president that is referring to as... It's the president that is captured within that policy somersault.
It wasn't the president that made that tenure elongation.
Because you lay a foundation for him to make the statement. You said the president was there. The vice president was there. So what you said is an addition to what...
Hello, I don't want to be quoted out of context.
Right.
What I said is this, that for the party It was a political, I mean,
Policy
a policy
okay.
somersault.
Okay.
That was what I said.
Okay,
Right.
I want to say that, I want to say now that I disagree with him. That was not a policy somersault on the side of APC.
All right, so quickly, what do you
Because
think it was?
the meeting that was said on February 27, 2018 in Abuja was inconclusive. It was at that meeting that the one of day before yesterday was rescheduled
Okay.
for these issues to be resolved.
Okay.
Now, I give it to Mr. President for the wide consultation that he said he did before he came to the conclusion that the motion that was moved for tenure to be allocated for national ESCO and state ESCOs of the APC was unconstitutional and illegal, and it spelled doom for the party, because any step that was going to be taken, nomination, primaries and everything, was going to be unknown to law if the matter was to be taken to court for judicial adjudication. So I give it to the president for referring to relevant sections of the
Constitution, yeah.
of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically section 223 of the Constitution, which says that members of a political party ESCO should occupy office for 4 years, and then elections should be conducted periodically. I give it to Mr. President for referring to relevant sections, Article 17 and 13.2b of the Constitution of the All Progressive Party, that says that members of the ESCO should be there for 4 years, and any member who is a member of the ESCO who is interested in recontesting should resign 1 month to the end of the tenure to be able to recontest.
Okay.
I give it to the president for helping to build eternal democracy and for killing dubious consensus among leaders of the party in the name of their own interest, which violates the tenets of democracy that have to do with freedom of choice and freedom to contest for elected positions.
Okay.
Yes, let me quickly clarify this issue here.
In just 1 minute.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I said, even if it takes you 10 or 15 years to correct an error, there's nothing wrong in it.
Okay.
So it's a plus for the president for that decision. It will save the party of a lot of issues. Those that are aggrieved, it has suited their nerves. Okay, especially Bola Tinubu.
We think the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led
yes,
is doing a good job, and it has led to this. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think that's the point where we're going to anchor this morning. There's a whole lot more to talk about, but definitely time wouldn't permit us. So thanks a whole lot, Wilfred.
Thank you for having me
this morning, and Neville also. Thank you for coming through this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, don't forget the discussion continues on Twitter, so keep your comments coming through at ITV Radio NG. That's our Twitter handle. Use the hashtag TMI and share your thoughts on all of these issues that we talked about this morning on the program. We'll take a short break, and then we'll be right back with some more. Don't forget, Easter is around the corner, and we've got a big package coming through. We're going to be talking about this morning on TMI. Stay tuned.